Hello and welcome to the Guya Samaja Center. I hope you're enjoying the video. Please consider making a donation by clicking on the Y button on the upper right hand corner of the screen. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
So this morning we went through the 13 different defilements and how to so that we should try in our everyday life mindful of our thoughts, and whenever we notice and recognize one of those defilements, we try to reduce them, minimize them, and try to apply the antidote as soon as possible, as much as possible. And if you continue to do that, then definitely over the time we will have less of those defilement, and even if we do have those defilement arises, it will not be strong, and it will not last for a long time. and so then once we are able to do that, then we will find much more peace in our life, much more stability in our life, in our mind, much more calmness in our life. At the moment, our mind is a lot of time kind of disturbed by one of those defilements. So you can see mind is such phenomena. From one perspective, it seems the mind is quite hard, not easy to change. But from another perspective, if you continue to apply the antidote, it can change. It has that flexibility. The mind has this quality of flexibility when when it is apply right antidotes. And if we do that, then it can be transformed, it can be changed. And therefore, through those transformation changes, we can reduce and overcome those destructive emotions, and we can increase those constructive, positive emotions. And so then, next ones, verse number 13. So the sage, which means the Buddha, has proclaimed that caring is the mental state for the nectar of immortality. So what it means is this practice of carefulness. I think another translation is conscientiousness, or carefulness. So it's state for the nectars of immortality. So what it means, nectar here, of course, nectar means immortality. So it means nirvana, liberation, the state beyond the sorrow. So if we practice carefulness, conscientiousness, then that can lead to the state of nectar, immortality, the state beyond the sorrow, nirvana. While not caring, if we don't practice conscientiousness or carefulness, then while not caring is stand for death. What it means is, if we don't practice that, then we will continue to be under the influence of our own defilement, delusions, and due to the influence of those defilements, we will continue to create negative karma or polluted or contaminated positive karma, and therefore we will continue to take rebirth in samsara, and having taken rebirth in samsara, we will continue to experience the death. And so therefore, so we'll continue to take a rebirth and death and rebirth and death within the samsara endlessly. And therefore, to both your constructive dharma measure, in order to improve your dharma practices, in order to improve our dharma practices, constructive practices, virtuous practices, we need to have this caring attitude, the mind of being very careful, and always through being appreciative. So again, being very careful with our thoughts, our actions, our speech in our everyday life. Very careful and watching them with mindfulness, introspection. And through that, we try to refrain from engaging in any negative, harmful actions, speech, and thought as much as possible. And whenever we notice that we are in one of those states, we try to, by applying the antidote, we try to change it, we try to transform it, we try to minimize it, and instead we try to develop the antidote, the positive state of mind, positive action, positive thought as much as possible. So if with that, then definitely we will make less mistake in our life. A lot of time we make a lot of mistake, not because we want to make mistake. We do not wish to make any mistake. But then a lot of time we are not careful and mindful of our thoughts, our actions, our speech, our behavior. And so because we are not so mindful and careful, then we engage into certain harmful action which we do not want to engage in. We make a mistake which we do not want to make it. And as a consequences of those such mistake actions, of non-virtuous actions and so forth, then sometimes it harms someone which we don't mean to harm. Sometimes it brings pain to ourselves, create more problem to ourselves. Sometimes it brings pain and problem to others and one both. Sometimes even it does not bring any immediate problem, but in long term it creates problems. From karmic point of view, we experience the consequences of that. Even if we don't experience in this lifetime, we experience in next time. or if not immediately now, maybe later part of our life. Just like many of the mistakes we make. Some of the things, some of the decisions, some of the mistakes that we made when we were young, maybe we might not have experienced that consequences immediately, but maybe now we are experiencing consequences as we get old. For example, not taking care of your physical, for example, doing too much. When you are young, when you are healthy, you didn't take care of your, and you do too much, and as you get old, then you have messed up that, and at that point you didn't experience, but now you are experiencing consequences. So there are a lot of like that. So, so basically, through the mindfulness, introspection, and carefulness, if we do that, then we create less negative karma, less non-virtues. We create more virtues, we create more virtues and more positive karma, and we have less delusions and more realizations, and through that leads to nirvana. On the other hand, when we are less careful, when we have less mindful, when we have less introspection mind, then we engage into more unwholesome, non-virtuous, negative actions, karma. More we and also we get more influenced by our own delusions, afflicted emotions, and so therefore we suffer more as a consequence of that, and also we suffer in the futures, continue to create karma, to be born in the samsara, and then coming in the samsara, then being born in the samsara as a human being, for example, then aging, sickness, death comes, and then we continue to experience the death. And so that is how. So therefore, in everyday life, we try to apply mindfulness, introspection, and carefulness all the time as much as possible. That's the key. That's the key to get closer to the enlightenment. That's the key to closer to get to the liberation, nirvana. That's the key to create cause and condition for higher rebirth, so we can continue to practice in the futures. And it is the key to live our life more healthy, less mistake, and more happy. And so, so that is what he's advising the king and all of us to practice that. And then the result of even we have been careless in the past, but if we continue to practice more careful attitude now, then how it can transform and change and have a more better and positive result. So anyone who previously didn't care, who were careless, and due to that carelessness, who create a lot of negative karma, but later develop a caring attitude. And through those caring attitude and through the practice of purifications, then they become a beautiful, with full of realizations, as the moon when parted from clouds, like Nanda Angulimala, Ajanta, Satru, and Udayana. So, so again, he's saying that in the past, due to carelessness, due to not having enough strong mindfulness, introspections, we might have made a lot of mistakes. We might have created a lot of negative karma, all kind of negative karma. Maybe some of the worst negative karma that we can not even imagine. Even though we don't remember. So even though we might have created so many negative karma from the beginning of lifetime, and which are not being purified and still there, but in the later, if we understand and if we develop an attitude of carefulness, mindfulness, introspections, and then generate a regret to the previous mistake, past mistake, and cultivate a strong determination, resolution not to engage into such same mistake, create same mistake in the future. And then engaging into any of the virtuous actions as a way of purifications, together with the refuge and bodhicitta mind. Basically with full opening power, then you can purify all those negative karma. So it is never too late. In Buddhism, it's never too late. No matter how much bad karma we might have created, we might have created even worse karma, negative karma than Hitler might, or Mao Zedong, or Stalin, and all you can think of all in historically some of the people who have done the most of the destruction, who have killed millions of people. We might have even created more negative karma than them, but still, if we do the purification correctly, in the right way, and with that careful attitude, if we stop to create more negative karma, then definitely, not only you can cleanse and purify all previous negative karma, but you can develop all the high realizations within the path, and eventually achieve true happiness of liberation, fully enlightened state. And just like example, when the moon, full moon, is kind of obstructed by the clouds, so you can't see it. But when that clouds are being separated from the full moon, then you can see the beautiful moon, which has not been obstructed or obscured by any obscurations. In same way, at the moment, our mind might be obscured by the delusions, by negative karma, but when we cleanse, purify, and clear that, then we can see the unpolluted, the pure nature of our mind. And so here he's giving some of the examples of at Buddha's time and maybe later. So there is someone called Nanda. and he is known to be very strong, very attached person. He was extremely attached to his wife. Of course, later he became a monk, but even after he became a monk, it was very hard for him to let go of that attachment. He was known among many of the disciples at the very beginning, most attached among all of them. He has very strong attachment. And Angulimala is someone who has lot of anger. And under the misguidance of one of his teachers, he was in mission to kill 1,000 people. Angulimala means, mala means garland, angula means the nail. So the garlands of nail. So each time he kills someone, then he take the nails and then wear that. So each time, and he has this. So he killed 999 people. His goal is to kill 1,000. So that was all the nails he was wearing. 999 nails garland. And the last, he couldn't find anyone because everyone was scared. Everyone knew where he was, so nobody was willing to go through that road, that path. And Buddha knew that it was time for him to subdue him. It was the right time. If Buddha was early, maybe when he is not right time, then he can't be much help. But Buddha knew that it was the right time, and then Buddha went through that. He was passing through that. And then he was chasing him. Angulimala was chasing, excited that he got the last person. And somehow, due to some Buddha's power, he's chasing, but he is unable to catch Buddha. It seems to him Buddha was walking very slowly, and he's kind of running and chasing, but somehow always Buddha was ahead. And also Buddha seems very subdued, so calm, unlike like other people who get scared when they see him with all the garlands of the nails and all with his sword. But Buddha doesn't seem to be any kind of that. Very peaceful, very calm. And he was wondering, what is that? And so then he started to talk, communicate with that Buddha, and then slowly, through communications. There is even, I think, one sutra, the Sutra of Angulimala. So the discussion between them. So that is the discussions. And then slowly Angulimala changed his mind. He regret what he has done. He saw the mistake that he has done. Until then he couldn't see his own mistake. Suddenly he saw what a mess, what a mistake he has made. And then he totally fall for the Buddhas and then asked him to take him as a disciples, and then he became his disciples. And then of course he do the purifications, and not only that, through the practices he worked very hard, and eventually he achieved very high realization in that very lifetime. At the later part of his life, when he became a monk, and then he was going for alms or walking, some people recognized him from his previous, and they were trying to kill him. because of resentment, anger that from previously, and they beat him very badly, almost to the death, almost killed them, but still he was not angry, not resentful. His mind was totally kind of peace, not being disturbed. Of course, physically he had a pain. He was beaten up so badly, but in mentally mind he was very calm, peaceful, because he had reached that point through his practices. So he was transformed. He saw his previous mistake, and then he acknowledged that mistake, and then he wanted to change it. I think that's the key in everything in our life. First of thing is that we acknowledge our mistake. If we don't acknowledge our mistake, we wouldn't make the next further. We wouldn't take the further actions to change it. The first thing is to acknowledge that was mistake, that was something harmful, that was something unhealthy, unhelpful. That itself is not enough, just acknowledging. Next is having the strong willpower, determination, resolution to change it. When you have that, then I think anything is possible. Anything is possible. There is nothing possible. There is nothing impossible. You see some of the people overcoming all kinds of challenging situations. You imagine how they can do that, but they have that willpower, determination to do that. That's what led them there. You can see, certain people handicapped, but they do incredible things, incredible than people who are unhandicapped. They make the people who are unhandicapped kind of like silly, stupid, with their ability and everything. And you can't, sometimes you wonder how they do that. Do you know? Because they have that incredible willingness or the willpower or determinations not to allow themselves to be overwhelmed by those disability. And so same thing, I think, in every changes. Whenever we want to change, some people who are trying to overcome, let's say, who are trying to happily, to give up addictions and different things, that when you have strong power, willpower, determination, you can succeed it. But if you don't have that strong power, willingness, then you can do all treatment and then you will relapse again and again and again. Some people find very hard to give up, and they keep on relapsing again and again, because a lot of time they don't have that strong willpower, determination. As long as you like that, then it's, and so therefore, so anyway, Angulimala and all, Nanda and all them, they had that first acknowledging the mistake and regretting that. Secondly, strong determinations, willpower to overcome, to change. And so, and then the Ajanta Satru is a prince in Buddha's time, and he killed his father, who was king, who was also kind of patron or sponsor of the Buddha and his followers, Sanghas. So, in order to, he wanted to take kingdom himself. So he killed his father, like as you see in many of his stories, where for the power, where brothers are being killed, parents are being killed, children are being wherever they feel. And so in these cases, this Mageda or where is the I was looking at a different page. That's why I couldn't find it. Yeah, 13, 14. Yeah, Ajanda Satru. So that was. So he killed his father. Then over the time, he got very overwhelmed and then very depressed, feeling guilty and all negative feelings, thought. And then again, Buddha helped him to overcome from that feeling of guilt, feeling of so low that he was unable to function as a king anymore. Not only he was unable to take care of his citizen, he was unable to take care of himself. Reached at that point, and then Buddha helped him to overcome. Again, there is conversation on that. There's some teachings. And then he came out of that state, and he was able to function better. And then then he started to really practice the Dharma. And then he also reached high level of realization that very lifetime. And then the Udayana is someone who killed his mother. And I don't know the whole story of that, but he killed his mother. So these are result of normally killing your father, mother is what we call heinous or uninterrupted karma, one of the heaviest karma. And so even though they have created one of those most heinous negative karma, still later when they through their eyes, their eye was open, and then when they understood that, and when they have done the purification and changed their mind, and then they all were able to achieve high realizations. And so if those are possible, then here he is saying absolutely each of us is possible. No matter how much big mistake we make, if we decide, it's absolutely possible. So trying to purify all the previous negative karma that we have created in the past through purifications. There are many different practice of purifications. But whatever form of purification you try to rely on, the important part is the four opponent power, to have a strong four opponent power, that is the key. And then it is not enough to purify the previous negative karma, we have to stop creating more negative karma. Otherwise, you clean the whole place and then again, wind comes and blow all. And again you clean and then wind comes and blow and keep on doing that, never ending. But if we purify the previous karma and then we try to stop or minimize creating more negative karma. And to do that, you need a strong mindfulness, introspection, and carefulness, that practice. And so therefore here, again, encouraging in our life to everyday life, trying to engage in those practices as much as possible. And then next is the practice of patience. Thus, since there is no trial equal to patience, you must never open a chance for anger to arise. Buddha has declared that having rid yourself of anger bring attainment, the state of non-returning. So here again, encouraging the king and ourselves through the practice of carefulness, mindfulness, introspections, try to apply the antidotes towards the all the delusions, especially attachment and anger. And in terms of applying the antidotes toward the anger is the practice of patience. One of the practice to overcome the anger is the practice of patience. So therefore, here he is talking about that. So it is similar to what Shantideva said in both the way of life. There is no powerful negative karma, then negative force, then anger, and there is no powerful fortitude, then patience. So it is similar that what he is saying here as here too. What is the Tibetan? Yeah, it is the same word, katu, fortitude. So here there is no trail of fortitude equal to patience. And so patience is the highest form of fortitude or protections to yourself from this internal enemy of anger. So what can protect you, defend you from the harm done by this internal enemy of anger is the patience. And there is nothing more powerful protections from that internal enemies and the weapon and harm done by the internal enemy of anger is there's nothing more powerful protections of patience than any other practices here. Yes, please.
I have two questions actually. Is it trying to say that by being patient, you should avoid getting angry, or if you feel anger starting by being patient, you can get rid of it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if we have a good practice of patience, depending on how strong your practice of patience is, if our practice of patience is very strong and we have reached very high level, first of all, we wouldn't get even angry.
For those of us who haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah. So then, for those like us, even when we get angry, yeah, how can we let it go and not to hold on it? And through the practice of patience, then we let go of the anger. So we don't hold on it. So that is what it means. Also, it can be like a lot of time, not only we get angry, but we hold on that for a long time, and we suffer. And so, through the practice of patience, then we learn how to let it go as soon as possible.
And the other question is that in the end it talks about a non-returner. What is that?
So yeah, it can again. I will come there. It can means many different things. In a in the practice of Pali traditions, there are 8 results, such as entering Kunshuk, entering the continuum, Kunshuk, Chirwon, coming ones, not coming, and Arhat. So entering and then result, 4 each of them, 2, 2, so 8. And so in one of them there is not coming back, which means it is their last in these worldly desire realms. That is last of their worldly desire realms. So after that they achieve nirvana. So there is one way of understanding that.
So once you leave the last step, you don't ever return again.
Yeah. And then in Bodhisattva's practice, I think it was when you achieve the either the path of seeing or path of meditation, one of them, again, you don't come back. There is one Chimito Vechanjusamba. But here it can also mean that, also, yeah, also others. So here, where it was 14, yeah. So there is no trial equal to patience. Therefore, you must never open a chance for anger to arise. So here is saying through mindfulness, carefulness, and introspections, we try not to give any space for anger to arise at all from the very beginning, if possible. Yeah? Yes?
So, patience is an antidote to anger. Is it patience for ourselves or for what's making us angry?
Yeah, patience toward the situations, toward someone, and sometimes for yourself. Maybe you are angry with yourself, or angry with your own actions, your own behaviors. In that cases, the practice of patience becomes yourself, your behavior. In some cases, it is due to someone else's behavior that you are angry towards. So that object of your patience, that person's behavior or that person's. Or in some cases, it's just situations, certain circumstances, situations, which we are so upset and angry about. And so in that cases, the object of your patience is that situation, that so yeah, whatever is making you upset, angry, that object. Yeah. So so the stronger practice of mindfulness, introspection, and carefulness we have, the more chances we have catching of the anger earlier. The earlier you are able to catch it, the more easier is to overcome it. Because at that point, the earlier you catch it, the more weaker it is at that point. So when the anger is very at a very weak level, it's more easy to overcome it. Lot of time we are not aware because of we are not so mindful of our own emotions, our own thought, our own feelings. So we don't have the introspection, mindfulness, carefulness. And a lot of time the anger has already started and started to function, started to arise, get stronger, intensify. And we are not even aware of that. A lot of time we are aware when it is fully blown up, mess up everything, then we are aware. Yes.
Yeah, Geshe, like that would apply with other delusions too?
Absolutely. This is just with the giving example, but it's same thing. All delusions. So if we have noticed and aware before it's fully blown up, we could have stopped it there at that point. So we might not have messed up everything. And if we have caught up even earlier than that, it would have been even more easier. And if we have caught up even very early stages when anger, any delusions, not arising that moment, but like condition are coming together, for the delusion to arises. The delusions hasn't arises, but you can see the condition coming together. And maybe you can even feel sensations in your physical body, the way your mind's something. And if you don't take care of it now, then it will become this, and then anger arises, irritations, and frustrations, and then anger arises. So at that point, if you notice it, the anger has even not arises, and so if we can kind of stop from all this condition coming together, you don't even have to get angry to start with, isn't it? But a lot of time we are not aware, not strong mindfulness, carefulness, and that. And so therefore, therefore we can see how important. And sometimes when we are not aware at the very beginning and all conditions come and whatever delusions, in this case anger, has become strong and very intense, ready to explode. And even you try to apply some of the meditations, sometimes it doesn't work. You try to use all these different analyses that Shantideva explained, or many others. Still your anger is still there, it doesn't really subside. And we start sometimes feeling, this is not working. This meditation, this technique is not working, isn't it? Well, it's not that it's not working. Your delusion too strong, your practice too weak. As simple as that. Your delusion too strong and your practice too weak.
What if the delusion is someone else's delusion and you're simply the recipient of it? So you can't. How do you change their delusion? If that's you.
Are you talking about our president?
No, actually, he wasn't at work right now. It happened yesterday.
It looks like you're talking about my wife now.
So
Well,
a lot of people have had the same situation, obviously.
Well, I think if we can deal with our delusions, I think that is the first thing. Then you wouldn't receive so much from their delusion. You can handle it easy with yourself. You wouldn't get hurt, you wouldn't get upset, angry with whatever, even though you might not agree with their behavior, their actions, but you wouldn't be hurt, you wouldn't be disturbed, you wouldn't be agitated. So that is one thing. So not to be that. In terms of trying to overcome their delusions, that is totally another matter. It's totally another matter. It requires our skillful means, our very skillful means individually, how to convince them to understand, see that it is delusional. A lot of time, if we don't have skillful means, not only we are unable to help them to see this delusional, it will make them more upset, angry. So you need a skillful means. Individually, every individual is individual, and they have to be treated individually. And you have to know how to communicate with each of them individually, where they don't feel offended and upset and that with what we are trying to help. So that become another totally different skillful means. And sometimes they have to be ready, receptive. When they are ready, receptive, one small things can change them. When they are not ready, receptive, then you can try everything. Nothing really works. And so that is totally, I think, different subjects. So here is talking about dealing with our own delusions. Okay. So, yeah, yes.
Geshe, so sometimes you feel like the third level of suffering, like the pervasive suffering,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have control over it. Is that what you're referring to? Like, you're mindful enough to understand the animate and inanimate subjects, but then sometimes you can feel it's the pervasive suffering coming in. How do we deal with that?
But even with pervasive suffering, which means this very aggregate, which is the result of our previous karma and delusions, even though we can't change this physical aggregate at this point, but still, if your mind is very strong and not deluded, and if you don't have the delusions, then I think you can handle with this any kind of physical pain with much more easiness. Yes, there is some physical unpleasantness, but that doesn't drive you craziness mentally. Your mind is still very calm, accepting, and also you know that there's into this body. Once you are out of this body, there's no more coming back to samsara, and so therefore it's like you know that there is end coming very soon, and so that gives you more kind of, when you see end in a short period, then of course you don't get so down your mind. You can keep your mind uplifting in that way, and so when you don't have delusion, then of course mentally you don't get disturbed. So therefore, but for us, it is not just the previous aggregate, but it's the present moment of our mind, the delusional mind. That is what is making life much more miserable. Physical challenge is one thing. Most time, more than the physical challenge, is the mental challenge that comes due to that physical. When our mind is full of delusions, and that is the worst part in our life. That is the most. So therefore, if we can control that part, then I think definitely it will be most easier to handle that. Yes.
Krishna, this state of non-returning or no more coming back, I'm sorry if this is a stupid question, we take our bodhisattva vows to come back again and again and feel no more suffering. So is it that we're not returning in a state that's vulnerable to the suffering of samsara? We're still returning, we're still reincarnating.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even the bodhisattvas who reach that non-returning point, it doesn't mean they will not come into samsara, but like their previous samsaric or delusional or all this obscuration which they have overcome, they don't come back again because they have cut the root of it, not returning. That those obscurations, those will not return back. So it doesn't mean that you don't return back in the when we talk from the bodhisattva point of practice. But of course, when we are talking from more from the Pali traditions of that, then that means, of course, those are the one who was trying to actualize individual liberation, arhats. So in those cases, of course, they don't have an intention to come back once they achieve the liberation. But for the bodhisattvas, of course, they have the intention to come back until they liberate each of all sentient beings to fully enlightened state. But in that cases, when we say no more, not returning back, it doesn't mean not. They will come into the samsara, but it's not driven by delusion and karma. It's driven by their compassion. So it's very different.
Thank you.
At the moment, our returning back is not because we want to come back, but it's driven by our delusion and karma. But bodhisattvas, even though they are not driven by the delusion karma, but due to their compassion, they come back and return back. So it's a very different state. One is voluntarily coming, one is involuntarily coming. So they don't have this more returning, coming back involuntarily, but they will come voluntarily. Yes.
So if you achieve the returning path, like path of seeing, can you like be reborn in samsara and then lose your bodhicitta?
Well, it depends which path you have started from the very beginning. If you have started the path from the bodhisattva's path from the very beginning, so then even when you enter the first path, the path of seeing is third. When you have entered the first path, you have already developed bodhicitta mind. So the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of normal learning, that is the result, the fully enlightened state. And so when you have entered the first path, the path of accumulation, at that point you have already developed bodhicitta mind. When you have path of seeing, then you have direct realization of emptiness. In those two paths, you have realization of emptiness, but not directly. It's more conceptually, with a concept, conceptually. Experiential, it is experiential realizations, not just a kind of dry intellectual understanding, but it's experiential realization, but still it is not a direct, it's still with a concept. And when you path of seeing, then you see directly without any concept. So you, in terms of the bodhicitta, you have already in the first when you first enter the path, you have when you have the bodhicitta, then you have entered the first path.
Yeah, but when you die, when you get reborn, you have to start over again.
No. The good part. So, especially the path accumulation also have three parts: initial, middle, and grade. And especially when you have reached the middle, then from there is no more coming back. There is no you don't lose bodhicitta anymore from that. The first part, the initial part, is possible. At the initial part, someone can actually lose after some time and they can go back. But once you have passed the first initial part, and when you reach the middle stages of the path of accumulation, from there, then it is you don't what we call regress. Can you say regress back? So then, yeah.
So
Yes.
there's no way, nothing will happen to that being going forward that could have them have a rebirth in a lower realm then.
Yeah, even if they do take a rebirth in lower realm, is because they want to, voluntary
Right.
taking
It's
is,
voluntary, so you come back as an
yeah.
animal.
yeah. So the bodhisattvas, those take voluntarily because they feel it's more beneficial there for that. So it is not like, like our birth. Yeah. Mm. 14. So so Buddha has explained or declared in Sutra that when you get rid of yourself or anger, then that will have many positive results immediately, and then short term, long term, and eventually it lead to the state of no more returning, and not only that, eventually to achieve to the fully enlightenment. And so therefore, yeah, maybe I can. Then the next one again is a little bit further of that. By beholding a grudge, by holding a grudge, thinking I have been insulted by this, stalemate, and what is smite?
Stymied, blocked.
Blocked, okay. Stymied and defeated by this one. My wealth has been plundered by this one. Conflicted arises more. Whoever rid himself of grudges, go to sleep at ease. So he's saying that we get angry, upset, because we constantly think that someone has insulted us, or our families, our friends. Either in the past, thinking what they are doing now, or that they might do in the future. So the more we think about that, the more angry we get, the more upset we get. And then resentment and grudges. And that we can't let it go. The more you the more you think about how much they have destroy our success, our happiness, our wealth, our prosperity, or how much they are doing, or how much they could do that in the futures, so forth. Again, anger, and then that is one. The more you think it, the more you hold it. If you don't hold it, anger is just like, as we've mentioned, is one state of moment, impermanent, yeah, like all other external things. Also, these emotions are also impermanent, transitory. It just comes and just goes. It arises and goes. But a lot of time, if we don't fuel it, a lot of time something happens, that anger arises, And what keeps that anger alive instead of letting it go and kind of dissolve itself naturally. That is what naturally it arises and it disintegrates. It arises and it disintegrates. That is the natural process. But sometimes instead of disintegrating or dissolving naturally, we try to keep it alive by thinking all that. The more you think, the more you keep it alive. So that you hold the grudges, the resentment. And the more you hold those grudges and resentment, the more you suffer. So when there is strong anger, resentment, grudges, as it said here, also in Chandriya verse, sometimes you cannot even sleep well because your mind is too occupied thinking about that person's act or that person himself, herself. Not only you cannot sleep well, you cannot taste your food well. You don't enjoy all the things that give you enjoyment normally. When you are in that state of strong anger, grudges, resentment, nothing gives you any pleasure. Food does not give you any pleasure. Any kind of entertainment doesn't give you any pleasure. That is how it destroys your pleasure, your happiness. Immediately, you don't have any more peace in your heart. Calmness, peacefulness, whatever you have, is gone. The moment you have that, it's gone. It takes away. It destroys that state of your peaceful mind, calm mind. Not only it destroys that calm and peaceful mind, it destroys your pleasure that you experience through senses. Your sense pleasure are being overwhelmed by that, your mind of that anger, strong anger, grudges and that. So at that point, in that moment, nothing makes you happy. Nothing makes you happy. Someone can offer you your most favorite food, which you have been looking forward. Okay? This morning you have been very excited, looking forward, order your favorite food from your favorite restaurant, and now you are angry, upset, resentful of anger, resentment that, and that food come. There is no more enjoyment in that. Nothing gives you enjoyment at that moment. Such is the anger. Such is the anger, grudges and resentment. The anger, resentment, grudges might be able to harm your enemy, someone there, or not. It might not be able to harm, but definitely it will harm you. That is for sure. The sure and 100% sure guarantee is it will harm you. Whether it will be able to harm someone is not so sure. But definitely it will harm you. And sometimes, people ask questions. Do we have the right to be angry for someone such a someone's such a uncompassionate, mean behavior, actions. My questions is, I say, it's not, we shouldn't be asking that questions. Whether you have the right to be angry or not. Maybe you have right to be angry. More than that, my questions will be, is it helpful and healthy to be angry or not? That is the question you have to ask. It's not about whether your anger is justified or not. Whether you have right to be angry or not, whether your anger is just justified or not. That is totally, yes, maybe it might be justified to get angry. You have a right to get angry. But more than that, is the anger healthy to you, helpful to you or not? That is the question you have to ask. And then you have to decide. Yes.
On this, I forget whether it was a book that I read or he was actually speaking, but it was His Holiness. And he talked about when you get angry, he said, pick up a pillow and hit the pillow with your hand. Don't hit the wall because the wall hurts. And then maybe you get rid of the anger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a somewhat silly example, but I think most of us would probably believe that holding on to it is not good. Do you have suggestions as to, once you feel it, how do you dissipate it?
Uh-huh.
Besides hitting the pillow.
Which research shows does not work, it actually increases anger
Yeah, it's
to
not
hit
good.
something.
I've tried it, well, it actually has worked on small things.
I think for certain individuals, certain cases, for short term maybe it might be helpful, but definitely long term it would not be helpful, because then you have to express that all the time in order to overcome it. But also, of course, in Buddhism, when we talk about patience, letting go, we are also not talking about suppressing it either. A lot of people misunderstand that it's suppressing. Definitely, it's not suppressing. Suppressing doesn't help, because if you keep on suppressing, it will explode one time when there's no more space there left. So it's just like when you are suppressing, you are just trying to pretend you are not angry, but the anger is there. So is suppressing doesn't help, expressing doesn't help in long term, like whether you are hitting pillar or something. But I do feel maybe some individuals, for a certain period at the very beginning, maybe it might be a little bit helpful. But then after that, they shouldn't be relying on that same, but they have to work on further than that. Otherwise, then you can't really get out of anger. You just continue to do same things. So I think one thing is being aware of it is one thing, okay? So being aware of it, mindful of that can be helpful. Just being that mindful and aware of that. Oh, I'm angry. Or my anger arises. Maybe more than I'm angry, maybe you say my anger arises. I can see my anger there. Identifying, noticing that. That itself can be some helpful. Second things is noticing when you are in that angry state. How does it feel? Physically, emotionally, mentally. Does it feel good? Or does it feel bad, uncomfortable, unpleasant? Noticing that also is helpful. Then you see, oh, it's not good, it's not healthy. So immediately when you see it's not good, it's not healthy, then you already started thinking of letting go instead of holding it. So again, that is helpful. Hmm? Then another thing is you don't try to think too much about that person has been very harmful and did this and that and that. You don't repeat that drama again and again. If you don't repeat that, then the anger doesn't arises. Resentment, grudges doesn't arises. It doesn't intensifies. So if you can somehow manage to not to think about it, when the moment that thought started coming, you try to do something else. Direct your mind to something else, something positive, something virtuous, instead of letting your mind to get into that same drama. So when you stop your mind from going this side, thinking about how that person and this and that and this and that, instead immediately you notice and you immediately you direct towards something virtuous, something else. That's again one. And then you direct that, and when your mind is more calm, peaceful, then actually you can think about the situations again. So now you don't suppress it, now you bring it back. Bring the whole feeling which did there. But it is better when you are more calm to do that, because you have more control over that and be able to be more objective to see the situations. When you are in state of anger, you cannot be objective. You are already being in state of bias. You cannot look the situations properly without being biased. But when you are calm, when your mind is peace and calm, then you have more chance of you to be less biased, more objective, and to understand the situations, everything's more realistically. And so when you are more calm and peace, then you can think about the situation, about whole thing, and allow whatever emotion arises. So maybe if you have still anger, resentment, grudges, those feelings will arise. You don't have to push it, you don't have to do anything, just let the natural feeling, emotion, whatever that is, to arises. And then next step is kind of, why am I feeling that way? Why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling upset, resentful, grudges? Then maybe we come with all kinds of reasons. All kinds of reasons. Or because he did this and that. Or he could have done, he could do this and that, and all kinds of things. So basically, we think or we feel that they have done something harmful to ourselves or our family, something, or someone else. So, but then the next is kind of questioning and analyzing. Is that really the case? Or maybe my mind making up? A lot of time our mind is making a lot of time. It's not really there. Our mind is making up everything, all the stories. And a lot of time we don't even check and analyze whether the story is made by my mind or actually is real there. So when we try to see, analyze whether is my mind making all these stories or is it really? sometimes you notice it's your mind making up. Your mind misinterpreting things. Once you understand that it is your mind misinterpreting, it's not really, then you can easily let it go. Because you know now it's not his or her action, it's my misinterpretations. So when you don't blame that person, then you can let it go. But when you blame that person, then you can't let it go. You still hold that person responsible for that. Yeah? And so therefore, that one. Secondly, a lot of time there is misunderstanding, miscommunications, nothing else more than that. A lot of time we feel that they have this intention to harm us, and then they wanted to harm us and they did that. But when we are more calm and with more unbiased objectivity, when we realize a lot of time, there's nothing more than just miscommunication, misunderstanding. Again, when we understand it's purely misunderstanding, miscommunications, then again it's become much easier to let it go then, because we don't see kind of planning with the bad intentions. Do you get it? When we get angry, it seems to us that they have been planning that for weeks, months, years, with all these harmful intentions, wanting to harm us. A lot of time there's nothing like that. A lot of time is nothing like that. When we understand that, then again it makes much easier to let it go. So that and then you use many other different reasoning logic that Shantideva explained in his chapter 6, the Buddhist way of life, looking from many different angles, many different perspectives. If we look from karmic perspective, whatever harm we are getting from that person is because our own karma. Fundamental cause is our own karma. If we have not created that karma, that person might be doing the same thing, but we wouldn't feel hurt and get the harm. Nothing changes in his actions, his intentions. But in terms of how we feel and how we experience, it changes. Do you know what I mean? Someone might say, you look fat, okay? That can be very harmful, very painful, or that can be just nothing. A comment that you are getting a bigger fat, nothing else. But then, due to our own karma, due to our own mind interpretations, it can become a very, very painful and harmful, that word. How dare that you call me fat? It's insult, isn't it? It's absolutely insult, abusing. So we feel the suffering, the pain, the hurt, and that gives rises to anger and many other negative emotions. On other hand, the person, same thing, with same intention, motivations, nothing bad motivation, it's just maybe not so careful, maybe so not mindful, or maybe without any bad intentions, just so, oh, you haven't seen for a while and you seem bad, and just describing what really is that you have gotten a pad. And saying pad, for example. And so, your karma, if we have not created karma, you don't hear negative way. You don't take it negative, you don't hear it negatively, so therefore you don't get hurt. And you don't get hurt, you don't get pain, suffering. Do we understand? A lot of time is like that. It's our own interpretation and our karma, more than that person's act. Whether we get hurt, whether we get experience the harmful experience of that or not. So when you look from that perspective, then we take responsibility ourselves through our own karma and not blame that person. And therefore, when you are able to see it that way, then you are then you don't blame that person. Then easy to let it go. Yes, please.
If you see someone else calling someone else fat, do you have any obligation to act? For example.
Yeah. I would say it depends. Yeah, I would say it depends. First of all, the most important part is not to allow ourselves to be agitated, frustrated, angry. That's the first thing. Make sure that we are not upset, angry, hurt, agitated. And so, while keeping our mind calm, peaceful, and not being disturbed, agitated, hurt, then the next step, what we should do, is another totally different matter. It could matter from situation to situation, different individual to different individuals, understanding the situations, everything better. For in some cases, being silent might be most powerful. In some cases, saying something positive, negative, or affirming. For some cases, not affirming, but discouraging might be very helpful. In some cases, sometimes it's more powerful to be silent as well. So we have to understand situations. So we have to see, if I say something, will it be more beneficial to solve the problems and for him to understand, and so he or she doesn't do same thing to others, and that someone doesn't have to suffer and that. But at the same time, certain times, as Buddha himself has remained, as it will come in some of that, when he was asked certain questions, he remained silent because that was what was the most effective. And his own Dalai Lama has also said he found some time not to answer is the most best. Being silent is the most powerful. And sometimes certain situations require that. Because when we say something, we have to be skillful means, and they have to be ready to hear in a right way so that they don't get misunderstood and then mess up even more. Make them even more angry, and then out of that angry, then they started to abusing, insulting even more. Because we don't want to do that. Because it is adding more suffering to that person and to others as well. Because then he is going to abuse and insult not only that person, another person, yourself, so many others. And then so many other people get upset and angry, and then back and forth. So it depends on the situation. So what kind of action we take is another step. I think even though I think a lot of people might not agree with that. We always feel that we have to say something all the time if you see something injustice being done. Yeah? We always feel that when some injustice is being done, we always have to stand and speak all the time. But in certain situations, maybe silence might be a better answer to that. And maybe when the right time comes, then we speak for that. Is finding the right time. Everything is timing. A lot of time is the timing. Now, one of the things His Holiness the Lama shared, which is kind of, which a lot of young Tibetan youth, there is an organization called Congress, Tibetan Young Youth Congress. Some of them might not agree with him of his view on that, but his view is, for example, when the Chinese president or officials comes in the West or any part of the world, that they shouldn't be protesting them. That is the Lama's view. A lot of young would not agree with that. They should be protesting to express that they don't agree with some of their policies, some of those incredible suppressing policies, and you have to express, you have to show. But recently Dalai Lama has his personal view. He have said as a president, as a official of that country, you have to respect them and not to be so act like that, such a disrespectfully like that. As a president of billions of people, you have to respect them that way. And another way he said is, when you protest because you live in country, a freedom country like in the West or in some other part in exile where the people have the freedom to express, and so you feel that you have freedom to express, so therefore you express and demonstrate and protest in that way. And then those officials got very upset and angry. They can't do anything here. They go back and they restrict the people in the Tibet. Who suffer? The people in the Tibet. Who already are very much restricted, under a lot of suffering, pain. And then in exile, when they come, the leaders come here because we think we have freedom, and so we started protesting, and they get so upset and angry. They can't take any action here. What they do? All this anger is directed toward people who live there. And there is a lot of truth in that. There's a lot of reason in that, a lot of logic in that. And so sometimes it's like that, isn't it? Just as even though you want to make them show protest and express, but at the same time, what can effect, whether it's going to have a negative impact or more positive impact, we have to see that. And so, so again, whether we agree with His Holiness' view on that or not, but it is another thing that to think about it, something to think about it. And that is, this is example that is this is a kind of very difficult issue, isn't it? It's a politically very, very difficult issue. For him to say that is not easy. But also he's very practical and realistic, and he can see the effect of that, how it is being affected the people in the Tibet, for example. So in those cases, like in that cases, it's sometimes it seems silence is better in that situation, in that time, instead of protesting and shouting and demonstrating in front of them. Of course, you can protest through other channels. Without doing that, there is always platform to express your different views, different things in different ways, and in a different platform, and so that where you have, and so I think this is good example how we have to kind of really interact, even though when it's something situation like that. So I think that is it became a long. I don't know. I was thinking of having a break, but then also to with a break there isn't a lot of time. Maybe do you need? I have to check.
So why is it special day? How come it's a special day?
Because it's my birthday.
You're going to Nepal again? Well, based on the suggestion, I'll probably not change that.
Happy birthday.
No, I'm going to.
It's
No,
your birthday
no,
today?
no, I'm just joking.
I'm going to.
I'm just being silly.
I have to. I'm going back to
Uh,
Lhasa for 3 or 4 days. I'm going to Nepal for a week.
I have to check my calendar.
So you turn.
Tomorrow is Tuesday, yeah. So it is a day of the Buddha's miracle. So the story is that Buddha's fame started to spread over the time. More and more state, more and more king started to support Buddha and his followers. And more people started to join and follow that. And some of teachers, students from pre-Buddhist spiritual path, some of them got kind of jealous and worried that they are losing the support and so forth. So then they challenged the Buddha to that if you are truly Buddha, enlightened, then you have to show that through miracles. So they challenged him to, and so they said to all the kings that who were supporting the Buddha, saying they try to say to the kings that they should arrange some kind of competitions in the miracles to show the powers. But Buddha resisted. Buddha never kind of wanted to get involved. And Buddha has been rejecting for many, many years, and they keep on bringing that issue and that. And since Buddha started rejecting that, and he didn't want to do that, because he sees no point in doing that, instead showing the message through and living with the examples, practice. But then many of the people started to doubt, maybe Buddha is nothing special. Maybe he's just a ordinary like us, who is kind of knowledgeable, but nothing kind of really enlightened special, because he keep on saying that, and he is not ready to compete. But Buddha keep on kind of postponing, never accepted that challenge. And then a time come when Buddha felt it's the right time. So again, timing with his skillful means, he saw it's the right time now. So especially there were 6 teachers of non-Buddhist, pre-Buddhist teachers, especially 6 of them who were very much involved in that, very well known in there. And so then Buddha thought it was time, and he can see that could help a lot of sentient beings to clear their doubt, their suspicious, and so forth. So the Buddha accepted the challenge, and then he gave them the time and locations, place. So many people gather in that, of course, sponsored by the king of that place. So many people came gathered to see the miracles, and then Buddha postponed it, and he says, not here, not now, and then another place. After again giving another time, and so then all people who had come here started following them. So it started getting bigger and bigger. And then again, when he reached there, then Buddha said again, not here, not right time. Again he given it. So he keep on going to few different places, countries, and the crowd started getting bigger and bigger because everyone's following, because they were so kind of interested. And I think that did it because Buddha wanted, if you do that, then you do in a bigger crowds, and so everyone. And so then when when group become incredible big, and then that is when it is said for 7 days, starting last week, for 7 days they competed in showing miracles. And through showing those miracles, then Buddha subdued those 6 teachers and clarified and cleared a lot of people's doubt and suspicious. And so tomorrow, the full moon day, most of the Buddha's important days are in full moon days, and also this happened to be full moon days. And then that was the last day of that 1 week miracles, and that was the last day when he really subdued them, and so that is why tomorrow is regarded as a miracle day. This 1 whole week, and the last day of that tomorrow. And so because of that, then it is counted as one of the special Buddha's day, holy days. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What kind of miracles were there?
It is explained that they were kind of like Buddha's. There was like half of his body was on the fire, half of his body was on the water, and so showing all kind of different aspects of display in that. They show all kind of different display of that. So yeah, there are that kind of display, that they could see that all the display that they are going. So like it is a half part of the Buddhas were burning the fire, half part of this in the water, and that, and so there are many kind of that kind of display, many different display that they show with their psychological power. Yeah. But even though Buddha showed miracle in that time in that way, but Buddha never encouraged. He always discouraged his students, disciples, from showing any of those, even if you have it. It's something to keep for yourself, not to show up. And he himself tried all his best not to show up at all. And when he was being challenged and when there's a lot of doubt, then that is when he had to do that. But only that's when only he is in his story. That is the only time he did that, show that kind of miracles. Only at that time. Yeah.
But you could show miracles one-to-one though. Not
Yeah. One-to-one, that is fine. Yeah. One-to-one, it helps to situations like that. Then that, yeah.
Because I've read His Holiness books where I've kind of understood there are a lot of miracles that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Normally, even when they are there, a lot of time, you are not allowed to not only show people, also discouraged from sharing it. For a lot of time, they share only when someone has passed away. Then they feel it's okay. Otherwise, some people can kind of. Then there could be like a lot of fake and misuse and fake miracles. So, but someone passed away, then there is no way of that person kind of misusing it, saying that I have all these miracles and using that, because sometimes again, some people might have certain psychological, such natural powers, but then there are also a lot of fake ones as well. And since we don't know, it's hard for us to know which is fake and which is not fake. A lot of time people can be misled in that way. So therefore, even you have a real one, you are not allowed to do that in that way. And even not to, yeah.
We have a lot of fake news these days.
Nowadays, fake looks real and real looks fake. Yes, a lot of flowers. Like I've seen some flowers. I thought it was fake, and then they was real. Some of them, and some of them I thought it was real, then they were fake. Yeah, well, some flowers, because it was so shiny, because they have. I thought it was kind of rubber, and then it's hard, and then I found it was not a fake, it's a real. I got at least one time. It was real, but it was too shiny, I guess because of cleaning and light or everything, it was too shiny. It felt like it was kind of not real first when I first saw it. And then there are also fake one which is so real. Yeah. Appearance. The deceptiveness of the appearance. One time, someone gave me something. It's a cup spill coffee. Has anyone seen that?
Yes.
It's a fake one. Someone gave me, and I left on someone's computer. When he came, he freaked out. That someone has spoiled coffee on his computer. Because it feels so real. Yeah. So anyway, we were on the verse. We just finished verse number 16. Yeah. Then verse number 17. Know that thoughts may be like figures drawn on water, on earth, or on a stone. Among them is best for those with a disturbing emotion to be like first, and while those with wishes to the Dharma to be like the last. So again, we can see with our own different emotions, different feelings, different thoughts. Some of them are very unstable, very transitory, very easy to change, very easy to disappear. And then there are certain thoughts which are more stable, more lasting. Doesn't disappear so easily. Doesn't go away so easily and remain for long time. So here he's saying, when you make some drawing figures on water, it's very unstable. It immediately kind of destroy. Immediately it destroy immediately. And then on sand, on earth, if you draw some drawing figures on sand, it's more stable than water, but it's also not stable when wind blows, and then the earth, the sand, and then that drawing can disappear. So it's more lasting than the previous water one, but it's not very lasting. And then when you draw something on the rock or stone, then it becomes very lasting for even many years, hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, it could last. So in the same way, you're saying, advising the king and us, try to practice whenever negative disturbing emotions, feeling, thoughts arises, those destructive disturbing emotion arises, let them be like the drawing in the water. Means let it disappear quickly, let it go quickly, don't hold it. Don't hold it. Let it go. The moment it arises, as soon as possible, you just, so then you don't get affected by that in the long term. And on the other hand, when we have virtuous thoughts, feelings, such love, compassion, wisdom, tolerance, patience, forgiveness, so forth, try to keep it, try to maintain it as long as possible, like the drawing on the stone. Try to keep it alive, try to hold it alive as long as possible. At the moment is the opposite. Anger, attachment arises, and we keep it alive by thinking again and again and again. In terms of anger, we think about how much harm they have done, how much harm they are doing, how much harm they will be doing, and so we keep on repeating and then keep it alive and maintain it for a long time. Long time. Same when we're attached, we begin to keep it alive by thinking again and again, oh, how nice it is, how beautiful it is, how attractive it is, how helpful it will be. If I have that, how it will make our life more easier, more convenient, more happy, more satisfaction. So we keep on all repeating that and then keep that, our attachment, desire, whatever, craving, alive. And then sometimes when we see someone in the news or on the street or somewhere in a very difficult situation, some kind of love, compassion arises. Empathy, sympathy, empathy, love, compassion arises. And then we are gone out of that sight and then we forget it. It arises when you see the object and then that is it. Then when you are back home or as you started driving, then slowly we started forgetting it, unable to maintain that love and compassion. It arises and it disappears very quickly. Because we don't think on that again and again, reflect, contemplate on that again and again. But if we continue to reflect and contemplate on the pain and suffering of that sentient beings, and how we could or we might be able to help, then the more you think about it, the more you keep that love and compassion alive and increase and improve that your loving kindness and compassion. And so we don't do that much at the moment, so therefore it doesn't last forever. So he's saying, switch that two off, you know. Switch these two off. And then that's when you have anger, when you have attachments, don't think too much about that and therefore don't keep it alive for a long time. When you have positive thoughts, loving kindness, compassion, sense of forgiveness, that try to keep it alive by thinking, reflecting, contemplating more and more again that. So if we do that slowly, at the moment, the delusions arises very easily. No effort. Does it require any effort? Conscious effort? No. We just meet the object and then delusion, boom. Even we don't want, it just boom. Compassion, even we try to develop, we try to meditate, still is hard. Even with full effort, conscious effort, try to practice, meditate, still is hard. But if we switch these two and slowly, then loving kindness, compassion, those virtuous mind, those become more and more easier and more natural. Then it become like delusion now. You don't require any effort, meditation. It's just when you meet the object, it just arises immediately like that. At the moment, we are not so used to that. We are more used to the delusions. That's why it is easy. We have more imprint. We are more used to thinking that way, less to that positive things. So here he is saying, Nagarjuna advising. At the moment we are meditating on the wrong object. We contemplate a lot, but on the wrong object. Object of attachment, object of anger. Change that object. Change the object, and then it can be instead of the object of attachment and anger, then we try to contemplate on object of compassion, love. And then it can reach a point where those positive state of mind become much more easier, more natural, more spontaneous, become more part of yourself. And when that happens, then practicing Dharma is not difficult. That is why for the Bodhisattvas, even they have to remain eons and eons, they are not discouraged because practicing them is not so difficult because of that acquaintance, familiarity and practice. It has become more easier. at the moment for us to think of even practicing one lifetime isn't very long, because practice requires a lot of effort. It's not easy. But when it becomes easy and doesn't require a lot of effort, then you don't get discouraged by thinking of practicing that for a long time. Once you started enjoying and started liking and become easy, then yeah. Yes.
It talked about the water and the stone. What do we do with the earth? What kind of emotions?
Yeah, it doesn't mention about that, but of course, our virtuous mind, at the very beginning, it might be like water, then we try to make it more like earth, and then slowly make like a stone. So again, it is kind of progressive. We cannot make it like a stone immediately, because we are not so used to it. So at the very beginning, at the moment, those go like this. Like water is very natural. So at the very beginning, we try to make like a earth, little bit kind of expand it a little bit than the normal. Even if we cannot expand for days, weeks, at least we try to expand for a few minutes, slowly, few hours, slowly, few days, slowly, few weeks, slowly, few months, then slowly, few years, and slowly, whole life. So, yeah. The trumpeting. So again, the Buddha, referring to Buddha. Okay. Conqueror or trumpeter, Buddha has proclaimed people who were to be three types, like a honey, like a flowers, and like a excrement. That sounds good. And then it is all perception. And namely those falls easily on the heart, so those which falls, our words, which easily touch your heart, easily touch someone's heart through the gentleness, kindness of that word, kind word, caring word, loving words, which immediately, when you hear that, it touches someone's heart. Someone feel that, and then make them at such an ease, just by hearing that word, make them at such an ease, kind of feel them kind of secure, put them in some ease, competence, secure, and touch their heart. That is like honey. Those that are truthful, being honest and truthful, not being hypocrisy or untruthful, or such as lying, false words such as lying, divisive, Mm. But truthful are like the flowers, so which has some essence. And honey, of course, is when you talk about honey and honey bee heap. Honey is the essence of that bee heap, the essence from that, and so same. And then like the flowers, and those that convey what is false, not truthful, such as lying. Mm. Out of those, rid yourself of the last. So, advising among those different words, then try to abandon, try to refrain from engaging in the last untruthful, false words. And as you mentioned before, such as harsh, divisive words. When we engage into such a false word, untruthful, unhonest word, one, it hurts the others when they find out that you have been lying, non-truthful, not honest. Yeah, the other persons get really hurt when they find out that. It hurts others. It hurts yourself, because when they find out that, they will lose respect to you. They will lose trust to you. Isn't it? And even when you say truth, people doesn't trust you anymore, because they cannot differentiate what is truth, what is not truth. Maybe we are already experiencing that in present situations. Isn't it? It's hard to believe it or not believe it. It's hard to know whether that is truth or not, because someone has already lied about certain things. So when you have already lied about certain things in false, then people cannot, it's very hard to trust. Even when you are telling the truth. So therefore your words, even the truth word, does not have such a impact or heavy that people doesn't take it seriously. People doesn't take it seriously. So therefore, it hurts others, it hurts you. Because you lose trust, confidence of others. And you are unable to communicate them well now. Unable to communicate well because people doesn't trust you, doesn't have confidence in you. Why? Because you have, in the past, you have been untruthful, engaged in the false. So it hurts others, it hurts you immediately. The result, you can see it. And a lot of time, when you have already started lying or engaged in the false, in order to cover one, you have to lie two more. to cover it. To cover these 2, you have to lie 4. To cover those 4, you have to lie 8. And then you might be lying your whole life in order to cover each of them. And it can become like that. You don't want to lie, but then now you started lying, because if someone find out you have been lying, you will be exposed, and you don't want to be exposed. Your ego will hurt. You don't want your ego to get hurt, so you always try to defend and cover up that. And trying to defend and cover up that means more lie. And then you end up lying. 1 lie to 1,000 lie, which you don't intend to do to begin with, but that is how it happens, starting with 1 lie. And so therefore, again, you create so many negative karma. And as a consequence, in the future, your word has no power. People doesn't listen to you. Even in this lifetime, we find that, isn't it? Certain people has their word very powerful. People listen to them. Somehow, they have this kind of energy. Whether you call it charismatic, or you call whatever you call it, different people might call it different energy, but they have certain energy which attracts so many people attention. People pay attention, listen to their words. And there are certain individuals who are equally good at that, in terms of being elegant and nice, putting in a nice way, but somehow they lack that power. People pay less attention. They don't hear much. And so, of course, from Buddhist point of view, those are different results of being truthful. One, in the past you have been truthful, honest with your speech. One, you have not been truthful and you are dishonest, you are lying. So therefore, as a consequence, in this lifetime, your words has less weight, less power. And then, of course, if we start lying, not only we start lying in this life, in many lifetimes, but also as a similar experience, also in the next life, some reason you just keep on lying. I mean, I sometimes you hear, sometimes we can see ourselves maybe to some extent. Sometimes you see certain people, they don't want to engage in certain actions, but they keep on doing that uncontrollably. They don't want to lie, but they don't know why they keep on lying. It's not they want to lie. In their mind, they don't want to lie, but somehow there's some kind of energies which they cannot explain why, but somehow they are drawn in some kind of energy in that way. Some people, they don't want to be aggressive and they're trying very hard not to be aggressive, but somehow, naturally, they're acting the most aggressively and they find very hard to control it. And for some people, it's easy to control being aggressive. Again, it's a previous imprint, from previously imprint. Some people, easy for to develop compassion. Some people, very difficult. So, imprint from previous. And so, and so therefore, try to, and especially as here in such as a leader of a country, as a leader of organizations, as a leader of a family and so forth, you have even more responsibility to be more honest. You have even more responsibility to be truthful and more honest, in order to be more helpful, more beneficial for the country, for the organization, for the family, not only on individual level but also on that level. And so definitely Nagarjuna is encouraging So out of that is refrain from the last one and encouraging him to do the first two, to engage in the speech, which is touching, which is compassion, and which is truthful, which is like the honey and the flowers. Engage in that and try to refrain from the last one, which is like similar to excrement, yeah, but caca. So I think we'll stop here today, and if there is any question, I can take one or two questions if there is. If not, then the dedications.
About lying, I just wanted to share to my kids. I teach them you should tell the truth because it's easier to remember.
Mm-hmm.
If you lie, it's sometimes very difficult to remember.
I think that is wonderful. Yeah. If they don't remember, then which is okay. I think page number 101. So may the supreme jewel bodhisattva that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which arises not diminish but increase more and more. Kanri rawe kowe shingan de endan dewa malu shungwe ne shere senwa tinzen jaso ye shabe sete patu tenkyo chi. Lama Soba Rinpoche's long prayer, I don't know where it is. It must be 200 something, 30 something. $279. Okay.
It's a short one.
Yeah. Tu chang xin chang kun jawe ten din jong pe we kun so to par de cho son ku we le mon tu du pa da so du che kun tu sha ten. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Every day is happy birthday.